Did you know that every single situation in life that you are experiencing can actually be made into a win-win situation? And this is the best way that I found to help you detach from an outcome for whatever it is you're going after, whatever it is you are doing, whatever it is you want to accomplish, achieve, have, be, do. If you can learn to make that, to take that situation and to see that no matter what happens, it's a win-win, then you will be able to detach from an outcome. And in this video, I want to share with you exactly what I mean, how I discovered this, and why this is so powerful. So welcome. If you are new here, this is the style of content that I make. I paint as I talk. And basically, I came upon this win-win situation because recently there are a lot of things that I want to apply to, a lot of things I want to do. Like, I just feel like I need to go places, do things. And so I'm applying for many different opportunities for like volunteering with pets at events and different things. And what I realized is, like, whether or not you get into something, it's a win-win. What I mean is that if you do get the opportunity, that you want, right? It's a win because you got what you wanted. But if you don't get it, it's also a win. And I'm also going to expand on this a little bit when it comes to relationships. But first, I want to give you a general overview, because even if you don't get what you want, it's still a win. And I want you to sit with yourself and find a way in which that is true, because what I realized is even if I don't get the opportunities that I want, it's still a win because I have space, I have the time, and something else that is better might come into my experience. So instead of going and doing something, I can do something else. I can make more videos, I can do other things. So there's always something that's going to come instead of that. And what I realized, even with opportunities, right? Like, if you get a rejection that you think, for example, I called this volunteer place to volunteer with pets and they didn't pick up. And I was like, okay, I guess that's not it. But then when I went to puppy yoga, the volunteer place, it was like it came to me. I asked them, I was like, do you guys need volunteers? And they're like, yeah, we're always looking. Here's our website. So it's like, sometimes getting a no, it's still a win, because when you get a no from something, you get a yes from something else. And I really want you to think about this when it comes to your relationships in general, because sometimes we get so stuck on, oh my God, this has to work. And the funny thing is, like, if you look at the energetics of it, when you are attached to something, you're basically preventing it from coming into your life. It's like this needy energy. Think about it in terms of relationships, right? Do you want to be with someone who's attached and needs you all the time? It's different than just wanting someone, by the way. I'm talking about when you don't see your life without that thing, when it's a matter of life or not life for you to have this thing. You're basically attached because you perceive the not getting of this thing, the not achievement of this thing, as a loss. But what I want you to do is instead see it as a win. It's a win for you even if you get a no. It's a win for you even if you don't get that thing, because there's something else that needs to happen. There's something else you're meant to do. And there's something else that will come into your life that wants you even more. So it's not a loss, it's a win. And sometimes it's hard to see this in the moment, but when I first learned this, it really helped me to detach from an outcome, because I was also kind of attached, because of course I want what I want, right? Of course I want to be in places I want to be, but what I realize is, you know what? It's a win-win for me. Either way, it really helped me to like let go of this internal resistance. And at the very least, you will be able to live your life in a much more freer state. And as a result, you will attract and you will be able to go after the things that you want. You will be able to be much more in flow and follow your gut and trust your intuition and always listen to your gut and your feelings, because what I realized is that is your only true compass. For example, like, I had this dream that I want to share with you that is it really changed the way I see life. And maybe this will help you, because you know, sometimes you're called to go after certain things and you're like, oh, but I want this thing, and you don't see it as a win-win, because you're like, well, if I don't get it, I fail. But you know, it's always two-sided, right? If you are meant to have something, that's because that thing wants you. I want you to think of that thing that you want, whether it's a person, it's an event, as a conscious creature. And it's always two-sided. And you know, when you're attached, you are almost like trying to force and manipulate that thing to want you, right? When maybe it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's completely okay. It just means it's not meant for you, because sometimes things are just not the best vibrational match, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So another thing that I realized is I had this dream that I want to share with you, because it really helped me to see that how you feel is true. It's not always true what your brain says. It's not always true what it is. And the funny thing is too, when you are going after something, you sometimes question, okay, what's the next step? How can I go after this thing? How can I get it? How can I achieve what I want, right? Once you detach from it, once you say it's a win-win either way, that does not mean you stop pursuing it. There's a big difference between detaching and saying, I will let this thing go and do nothing and sleep on the couch all day. Not what I'm talking about here. You still pursue that thing. You still put in the work. You still go after it, but you do it in a detached energy. And the way that you know which actions to take usually will come to you in a matter of a gut feeling. And here is the dream that I had. So in this dream, basically, I was just, for some reason, at this like camp or woods, and there were a lot of people there. And for some reason, I was walking out at night and there were cars, and I just felt very off about one of the cars. And I was like, you know what? I was just in this floaty, dreamy energy. I said, oh, this feels off. I will go over there. And what I realized was when I did that, when I moved away from what didn't feel right, it gave me off vibes. I moved to some other people that gave me good vibes, and it was so strange because it's like half the people had superpowers and half the people did not have superpowers, and it just felt safe to me. Like that person felt safe to me, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go with you. And that person had superpowers, and what happened next was that the cars that had an off feeling had like monsters in them, and then like those monsters were apparently eating everyone. And because I just felt safe with this person and I jumped with them, they had superpowers, so they took me away to safety and they ran really fast. And I woke up from that and I was like, damn, like we try to control life. Every single thing has to make sense. Every single thing has to be right. Every single thing has to be correct. But if you really want to make it in life, if you really want to have the best life, you want to go with what feels right for you, not what you think is right for you, right? And it's hard to do. It's hard to do. But it's a constant choice that you're making. It's hard even for me. Like, even though I make these videos, it's a constant choice that I have to be making to every time something comes up, when I'm presented with a challenge, I have to consciously say, okay, I want to control it. I want to do what my brain says, but I know that this heart, your gut, is really what is meant to guide you. Your guidance is in your heart. It's not in your head. And I feel like that's one of the best ways to also detach from an outcome, is listening to your heart, because sometimes, you know, you're meant to pursue certain things and you're meant to go after them, not in order so that you achieve or have the final result, but just so that you have experience and certain steps that you took that were leading you up to that. So what I mean is, for example, let's just say you are going to school, right, and you're studying for something. Maybe the reason you're so excited to study for something and to go in that direction and to become, like, I don't know, a doctor or something, right? It's not because you're meant to be a doctor. Maybe by you going to school, you will actually meet someone, or you will discover the real passions that you have, and that will, as a result, direct you towards something else. So it's not like sometimes you have to stay so stuck to the final result, so stuck to what you want to happen in the end. Sometimes there is so much value and so much blessings with being able to shift and adjust with the way that your feelings do. And I'm not saying it's easy, okay? We're so conditioned, especially because of the schooling system, is so heavily centered on your mind, and it trains your mind, and we learn to believe that that's the only thing that matters, right? But it's really not. So I encourage you to be flexible with what comes up into your life, and I encourage you to be flexible with that things are not always the way that they seem. Your brain is not capable of perceiving beyond 3 dimensions. Your mind, your brain is it's like a calculator, it's like a computer, and this computer is able to perceive, it's designed to perceive 3-dimensional reality, right? Like your world, physically, like tangibly, like touch, see, like the senses. It's designed for this world, for you to perceive it tangibly. But the funny thing is that there's so much more than this world. There's so much more than the visible spectrum. And your brain is never going to have access to that. But it's not that you don't have access to that, you do. You have access to that in your heart. You can also go into meditations. You can do automatic writing. You can do a lot of things to access this knowledge. But the fastest way really is in your heart. And by the way, this might sound like just straight up information that I may have taken from a book or whatever, but this is really the stuff that I am speaking from the experiences in my life. And I'm not going to always go into stories because it would just be an unending story sometimes of the same thing. But this is not really from any kind of book. If it is from a book, I will share it with you. It's just from life that I've lived and experiences that I've had, that I really had to see that the times I listened to my brain, it didn't really make me that happy. It was always a linear reaction. It was always a linear response. And every time I've ignored my gut, it burned. Okay, ignoring your gut, it was like a bitch slap to me. Every time I listened to my gut, even though it didn't make any sense to my brain, it always turned out to be for the best. It always ended up being a good experience, and it always led me where I'm meant to go, even when it goes against what people say, even when it goes against what society says, even when it goes against what everyone thinks should and should not be working for you or happening for you. All of those things, right? It's really up to you to decide what kind of life do you want, and then go after it and create it. And again, when I say make it a win-win, you make it a win if you get that thing, and you make it a win if you don't, because you understand that even if you don't get it, any kind of removal of something, it's just making space. It's not a loss. You didn't lose anything, okay? You simply made space for something else to come in. So when you can learn to look at it like that, you can really detach. And again, that does not mean stop striving. Okay, sometimes I feel like it's hard for me to convey in a video what I mean. And sometimes I do say like, oh, let go of the outcome, surrender, go with the flow, don't control things. That does not mean don't go after things. There is a very big difference. You want to go after it, you want to pursue it, but you want to do it in a way that's detached, right? That's the key. You want to do it in a way that's not attached to an outcome or what happens, because we don't know what happens, and you don't know if you're meant to have the final result, or maybe you're just meant to take those steps and those actions because they're meant to lead you somewhere else. So that's really what I mean, okay? And sometimes it can be hard to still go after what you want, even if you feel like, oh, but if I don't get it and it doesn't work, like, why should I even try? Why would you not try? Like, what else are you gonna do? Seriously, what else are you gonna do? You don't want to be a leaf in the wind that never gets anything done or never gets anywhere. And by the way, you will get where you're meant to go if you just keep pursuing your heart. You're gonna get there, whatever there is for you. May not just may not look how you think it needs to look. By the way, if you guys watch me painting the same place over and over, again, this is just the way that I paint. I take the same thing and I reiterate it a bajillion times because I want it to be the way I want it to be, and I want to be happy with it. And like I said, right, sometimes we need a healthy version of control, and sometimes you are attached to an outcome because you are trying to control whatever you're trying to control, and you're trying to get what you perceive to be a win because you're not always feeling like you are in control of life or yourself in a healthy way. And because of that, because you don't trust yourself, you don't trust life, you don't feel like you are capable of creating your reality the way that you want, you then project it onto the things that you are projecting it onto, right? And so it's important too to be honest with yourself. Like, do you feel like you are capable of being in control and designing your own life? Because when you feel that, right, you won't have the need to control, because you will just say, you know what, I know what's best for me will come to me. And I'm bringing this up because I feel like for me personally too, like sometimes art is a healthy way to control things. Creating something is a healthy way to control it because it gives you a sense of accomplishment that you did something. And it's funny too because I don't feel like my art really has a structure. I don't even trace. I'm gonna at some point insert the way I made the vague colors, maybe once I'm done with the painting. But the next painting that I'm making, because I want to finish this because I'm already making the next one. So the next one I have an outline. This one did not have an outline. So, you know, sometimes just focusing on creation, focusing on being present can also be helpful because you're not thinking so much and you're not worried so much, because the goal is not some kind of material thing. Because even if you want acknowledgements, or even if you want external success, or even if you want validation from other people, it's all outside of you and it's all fleeting. And it's like a dopamine hit. Like you might get it for a little while. It's like, oh, this is so great. But then it dies off and you need a bigger and a bigger and a bigger and a bigger hit until you realize that it didn't mean anything in the first place, right? The only joy is in the present moment. When you're so lost in creation, when you're so lost in the flow, when you're so lost in the process of doing, and by the way, this is still relevant to the video, because when you are able to detach from an outcome and understand that you win either way, what you then do is you simply follow your heart, you go with the flow, you go with the direction that you feel guided to. And when you get lost in the process, when you get lost in the present moment, that is so magical and that is so special, because you lose track of time, you lose track of everything, and you come out the other side transformed, and you don't even understand what happened. You don't even understand how you got where you were trying to go, because you took it one step at a time, right? And that's sometimes how it happens. They call it the compound effect. The smallest changes consistently compound to have big changes. That felt a little bit off topic. I'm not sure why I felt called to share that, but anyways, I hope that this makes sense. I feel like this was a pretty quick concept to just say, no matter what you do, have it ingrained in your mind, in your belief systems, that no matter what happens, you win. You will win either way. If you get that person, you win because you're with them. If you don't get that person, you win because maybe it was never meant for you. Maybe this is universe protecting you from something. Maybe you were just meant to have something else. You know, how many times you thought you were with the love of your life and you wanted it all to work out, and then it all crashed and burned, and as a result, you met the actual love of your life, right? Things turned out to be even better, but that could have only happened if you actually allowed the first quote-unquote failure to be a win, because it led you to something even better. So I hope that this makes sense. This was a pretty quick video that I just felt like I didn't really know how to turn into a full-on video. It's a one-sentence concept. How am I supposed to make a video of this? But you know, I feel like when I paint, I disappear in time. I don't even remember half of what I said. I'll be honest with you guys, okay? It's just, I don't remember. I have to watch the video and then I'll know what I said and if this makes sense. So I hope that this makes sense for you. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Let me know how you are going to make it a win-win, no matter what it is you're going after, okay? Because no matter what it is, you will win either way. Believe it and it will be true for you. Whatever you believe, if you adopt this, you will see it as a reality, and even look back in your life and say how each failure was actually a win. You actually won because you learned, you grew, you got something better out of it. So that said, I hope you got something out of this video. Sending you lots of love, and I'll see you in the next one.